Hello, guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Joining Me Today podcast, presented by me, Bailey Smith, a guy who, of course, I'm drinking Red Bull. Of course, I'm drink. I've referenced it so many times on my show and everything. You know that I'm hyped up to the nines on energy right now, even though I am very sleep deprived. But anyway, welcome back to another episode of the Joining Me Today podcast, episode 30, the second episode of 2025. The show is still going strong. I'm still here providing great entertainment for you guys. But in all seriousness, we've got another fantastic interview lined up for you guys today. But before we jump in, it's the song recommendation time. We have to do it. It is a staple of the show. And today's recommendation is going to be a song called What's My Problem by the Luke Estate. A fantastic indie rock song and stuff like that. It's got a vibe that I just really vibe with and stuff. It makes me feel a bit nostalgic, actually. It makes me think of early 2010s indie stuff and late 2000s sort of indie stuff. It doesn't even sound too much like that stuff, but it just sort of gets me in that kind of sort of like it just gets me in that vibe, you know what I mean? It gets me in that atmosphere. It makes me think of Foals and the Kooks and sort of bands like that. Sort of Arctic Monkeys, early Arctic Monkeys. It's a fantastic sort of indie rock song, and it's a great end and stuff. Great way for them to end off their album Fall In, Fall Out that they released sort of fairly-ish recently. It's fantastic ending, fantastic intro. I've said before on the show, I love my intros and stuff like that to songs. So it's got a fantastic intro and yeah, just a fantastic indie rock song. So you guys should definitely go check it out. But anyway, on to the main portion of today's episode. Today, I'm going to be joined by broadcaster, DJ, presenter, and now a musician under the name of jbpm. Welcome to the show, Jon Mahon. How you doing, sir?
Wow, Bailey bringing the juice. What an intro, brother. That was huge. Got me feeling all jacked up now.
I'm gonna be really honest. That's gave me so much validation. It's like I feel like you were like my emo song, and you've comforted me. I'm like I'm so good at this now because you're a better interviewer than I am. So I appreciate that,
Oh,
dude.
that's very kind of you to say, man. Very kind of you to say, brother.
But speaking of that though and stuff like that, sort of you with interviewing and stuff like that, and also we're going to be talking about your amazing sort of new and stuff like that artist journey that you're going to be sort of going on, but sort of talking about, you know, you doing interviews and stuff like that. How did all this get started? You being in music, doing broadcasting, working with Kerrang Radio, all this amazing stuff you do. How did all this get started?
So my journey began at 16 years old when, you know, at the end of your GCSEs where you have to do a week's worth of work experience. I just wanted to go and get a paper round so I could finish at like 12 and then go and get drunk with my friends. And my mom was like, nah, like you're better than that. So she actually put in a work experience application for me to Kerrang Radio when it was based in Birmingham at the time. And I didn't think anything of it. And then we got an email saying, hey, yeah, we'd love to have Jon come down and do the work experience. So I did my week's work experience, fell in love with radio, with broadcasting, I was already a big music nerd at that point in time, but it kind of just elevated my music love. And at the end of the week, I was like, look, if you have any cancellations over the summer, please let me know because I will happily come back and do this all again. And sure enough, they did. But the week they had a cancellation for was off to Reading and Leeds that weekend. So I could only do the Monday, Tuesday, and the Wednesday. And then I was going to Reading and Leeds on the third, was Reading Festival on the Thursday. And during that week, I was like, hey, again, like I know it's been a short week, but if there's anything that comes up, I will do it. And then sure enough, I come back from Reading and they're like, yeah. Loz, who did the evening show at the time, he now does drive times on the station. They're like, he needs a producer on his show, so would you be cool to do that? And they were like, we're cool to work it around your secondary school commitments as well. So basically, I'd wrap at secondary school at like 4:30. I'd get a bus into Birmingham. I'd go into the radio station in my school uniform, and I'd produce Loz's evening show until like 8, 9 p.m. My mum would come pick me up. I'd go home. I'd do my homework. I'd fall asleep. And then I'd go into school the next day. And I'd do that Monday to Friday for 2 years. And then eventually, through doing that a lot and just constantly throwing in demo tapes, because like as soon as I walked into the station, I was like, I want to do that. I want to be the guy talking into the microphone. And I was surrounded by so many incredible presenters, like who really did inspire me and influence like the presenter that I became. And yeah, after 2 years of doing demo tapes, they eventually gave me a couple of cover shows. And then when the station actually closed down in Birmingham, I was the weekend breakfast show host So yeah, I managed to work my way up from work experience kid to actually full-time part of the schedule. But because I was the last one in, I was also the first one out when the station closed down. So it's like,
Ah,
cool, station's gone. You know, the thing that you just sacrificed your entire secondary education for. By the way, go find another job. So yeah, that's what led me into finding DJing. I was going to a nightclub in Birmingham, and again, just started working for them for free, doing some interviews. And one of my best friends to this day, a guy called Tommy, he was the head of the DJs there. He taught me how to DJ and taught me everything that I knew about DJing. And then that led me into what I'm now into year 11 of my DJing career. So yeah, it's been mad, man. It's not a regular life path.
well, it's actually quite funny and stuff because your story's actually not too far off sort of mine because I actually
Oh,
got some
sick.
media work experience when I was 16 because of
Sick.
education and stuff like that. So I'll be honest, I'm not as cool as you. I wasn't, you know what I mean, trying to drink at 16, you know, I'm very responsible. I no, I was too busy playing cool games and stuff like Super Mario
we,
and all that.
I was going to say, were you a Minecraft or a RuneScaper?
Anyway, next question. So, all right, you know what? I'm gonna say it now. This, okay. I've never been able to say this story, and I don't know if it either makes me really cool or really lame. It's probably somewhere in the middle. I one time got Minecraft on PS4. This was when I was about 16, and I legit played it up until Boxing Day at 6 o'clock in the morning, all the way through for like 12 hours.
Fantastic. That makes my tiny emo heart so happy. Because thing is, I was a massive gamer, and like I had a dad that was like, "You're never gonna earn money from video gaming, so go and do something real, go do something proper." You're these gaming streamers who are making like millions. It's like look at ISO Speed's career and like KSI's career. It's like
Well, look at
these
like
guys are made of
esports, the competitive gaming, in it. People do it
yeah.
for being the best in the world, innit?
Yeah, so I'm like, thanks, Dad. It's like I could have gone one or two ways. I could have either been like, yeah, working in the music industry, or I could have just gamed. But because of that, yeah, like I did have to put video games down because like I got ADHD, man, and if I start gaming, I won't do anything else until that game is complete. And like at one point in my life, I was violently unemployed, and I was gaming, and I was like, look, man, you got to sort this out. Like you got to put down the controller and go pick up a paycheck.
Like, yeah, basically similar experience to you actually. Yeah, so media work about 16, 17, and stuff like that. Just doing some newspaper reporting. Actually in sports actually. You would
Oh,
maybe think it'd
nice.
be music, but actually more in sports. So I did a bit of that. And then basically from there, like you said, my love at music sort of in a different way, adjacent to that, ended up, you know what I mean? Because you know, you're doing more experiences, you're getting out there more, you're traveling a little bit more and stuff like that. Like and just you're getting to that age where you really are starting to appreciate the world and all that around you. I started to connect with music and stuff like that more and more. I always thought I wouldn't be a music kid growing up and or like a music person growing up, and then I ended up being like what I am now, where I'm massively into music, interviewing great people like yourself, and I'm here
I
now.
love it,
So
bro.
kind of similar journeys in a way.
I love it. I'm here for it, man. Like I've always said this, like the creative path in this day and age is never linear. Like where you think your life's going to take you at one point in one direction, a year later you could be moving in a completely different direction. And like I've got nothing but respect for the people who like acknowledge that and don't get so precious about where they were and holding on to that one thing. And they're like, cool, okay, life's pulling me over here. Let's go over here and see what's going on.
It's funny as well because like I actually spoke about it on another podcast recently about how with like gaming for instance I felt like I started to feel disconnected with the space and I still kind of
Mm.
feel that now. And I feel like if I because I was always in this mindset of, oh, gaming's going to be my thing, I'll be like the gaming guy, this will be such a big part of my life, and I had to kind of make that pivot of like, no, I'm liking music more, and I think this is my thing. I need to kind of walk down this path, not down this kind
Mm-hmm.
of like yellow brick road. So it's kind of like I don't know why I said yellow brick road, but we'll go with it.
I'm the same, bro. Like I made the mistake of telling my rugby coaching dad when I was like 5 years old that like I wanted to play international rugby, and he then took that as gospel and went, "Cool, my son's going to be an international rugby player," and trained me and like was as ruthless to because he was a coach of like men's teams was as ruthless to me as he was to men at the age of like 8 years old. And like it wasn't until that I started working for Kerrang and working in music that like his dream of me being a pro rugby player, like he's like slowly watched it die in front of his eyes. But I was like, because I kind of realized I was like, I'm probably not going to play international rugby when I hit my teens. But I was like yeah, I was in that middle ground. I was like, I don't know where life's going to take me. Like, I don't fit in at school. Like, the education system never really worked for me. Like, I was never like the brightest kid, like dyslexic as hell as well, and like always in like the learning disability section. So like, yeah, and I went to secondary school where it's like I'm surrounded by like doctors, lawyers, accountants, like people doing business and like all these insanely talented and clever people. But I was like, I don't know where I fit in any of this. And yeah, like, you know, sometimes life just goes, oh, okay, cool. Here's your yellow brick road.
Yeah, thanks for bringing it back with the yellow brick road thing, so I look less awkward. I appreciate that.
I got you,
You
brother.
get this game, you get this.
I got you, man.
Sort of staying sort of on the music thing, actually, talking about taking the sort of music path. You are now going on a path to being a music artist now and stuff. I know you've done sort of DJing work. You've already kind of dipped your toes into sort of performing on stage and sort of being in that world. But you're now doing your own music. You're called jbpm, which is a
Yep.
brilliant name. I love that. John beats per minute. I noticed that. That is so cool.
I appreciate
Um,
that, bro.
but yeah, tell us all about this new journey you're going to be taking on.
I'll start with the name. So that's actually my initials. My initials are JBPM. Yeah,
No way. That is so
yeah,
that's like one of those fate moments, isn't it? Like when people say they have a
yeah.
perfect wrestling name or something like that.
Yeah, man. Like it's almost like my parents knew they were going to raise a DJ. So yeah, when it came to choosing a name, I was like, I'd been thinking of doing something with JDPM like on a DJing front for a while and just like switching like my name for when I DJ to that. And like when I DJed at Download last year, I actually had my visuals flicker between Jon Mahon and JBPM. So like in a way, I was kind of almost teasing this project from like last year because like I was actually meant to debut this song at Download last year. Like it was ready to go, like it was going to be in my set, and I've never had like anxiety or imposter syndrome to that level before where like it was towards the end of the set and as it got closer and closer to that moment like my chest tightened, I got really lightheaded, I felt I was going to throw up and pass out at the same time, and basically I made the business decision of just pulling the plug on it. I was like, no, like if you're not feeling it, don't do it. And then I got my footage back from the Download performance and I was like, oh god, I wish I'd have played it. Like I really wish I'd have played it.
And your
So
download set, I think I saw it on Instagram. It was sick. It looked like it was
uh
awesome.
the best DJ set of my life so far, like without a doubt. I got an hour and a half up there, and the set was like loaded with mashups that I'd made, not just like in the lead up to Download, but some of those mashups. Like there's one of them, one with Teenagers by Mike M and Avicii's Levels. I made that mashup in like 2019. So like, and you know, I played the first ever mix that I discovered as a DJ, which that mix is probably like 8 or 9 years old. So like that set meant a lot to me in a load of different ways because it was like very like almost like career spanning for me as a DJ. And yeah, like that's one of the reasons why I didn't kick myself too much about not playing the song. So I was like, I felt like that was like the perfect like height of like my DJing. Like that was the biggest thing I'd ever done as a DJ. And now like I get to basically launch this in a totally different way. And like this can be a totally separate entity, but also like part of the same thing as well. Like it's going to time to DJing loads. I'm going to be playing this song in DJ sets because you can't stop me.
It's going to be awesome, though, isn't it? Like, based off your DJ and stuff, you know, you're a fantastic DJ and stuff. We
I
know that
appreciate
your
that, man.
music career is going to be amazing. But I've got to ask, you are opening for Bowling for Soup next month. Are we going to see some of your new music at your set on that tour, at your sets on the tour?
So that was the main reason why that song is coming out now, because when I got that message from Bowling for Soup asking me to yeah DJ on that tour, I was like, because I was so bummed out about not playing the track at Download, and I was like, I don't know when I'm going to have the next opportunity to launch it in the right way. And then this Soup tour came about, and everyone that I spoke to was like, "Dude, you got to play one of yours on this run." So I was like, "All right, cool. This is the kick up the ass that I need." So I got the track mastered. Yeah, once again, like we'll probably get into talk about the production, like the making of the tune in a second. But shout out my boy Tom Anderson; he's a pivotal part in this process. But yeah, the song's definitely getting played on the Bowling for Soup tour. it's mad that the first time I play that song will be on that tour. I'm yet to play the song to an audience. Like I was gonna play it on New Year's Eve, and then beers happened. Like I forgot to put it into like my set list. I was so concerned about putting together like a good set list for New Year's Eve. I just forgot to play it. So yeah, it's kind of fitting that the first time it's getting spun is on my first tour. I've never been on tour before.
Well, it must be such a cool thing to say, yeah, I just play some of my new music with Bowling for Soup. Like, that must be pretty awesome to like put on the kind of bucket list, like to tick that off the bucket list. That's something you wouldn't even think was on the bucket list.
Nah, man. Like it genuinely, if you'd have asked like me when I first started DJing, it's like, where do you see this going? Like that would never have crossed my mind ever at all. Like I when I first started DJing, I just had aspirations of, playing at the big festivals like Download and stuff, which I got to do that from like very early on in my DJing career. Then I didn't go back for a while. And then the last couple of years I've gone back and it's been unbelievable. And now I get to almost evolve it, into like a totally different beast, whereby like venturing into being an artist, which is it's something that I've wanted to do for years. Like it got to a point where I was going to all these gigs and all these festivals, and I was like almost feeling jealous, like watching certain bands on stage, and I'd be like, man, like you guys are up there playing your music that you've written, and all of these people have turned up in a field or in a city to come and see you play these songs because that's how much they mean to them. And I was like, man, if only I could create something like that could have that effect on people. Like me and me and one of my best mates when we used to live together, like we lived with each other when we were like 20, 21 years old. And it was like two dudes living in a house. It's exactly what you picture. And one night we were a couple of beers deep and we figured out the meaning of life. And we were like, that's it. We've done it. That's the meaning of life. And the meaning of life that we came up with was to leave something behind, like something that is worth associating with you or remembering in relation to you. So yeah, hopefully this is my thing that I get to leave behind.
That it's funny how even though you said that's how you came to that conclusion, that is such an inspirational thing. It's like to leave a legacy. Like
Yeah.
you drunk some beers or whatever, and you're like, I've just said one of the most profound things that will mean so much to me for the rest of my
Bro, we,
life.
we did it in like 20 minutes. We kicked off a game of Yu-Gi-Oh straight afterwards because like, cool, got job done on that then, right?
Yeah, go and get the snake eye dragon out or whatever. I
Yeah.
don't know enough about
Yeah.
Yu-Gi-Oh, but
7 and 10, baby. 7 cards, 10,000 life points. Let's go.
But yeah, like sort of you sort of mentioned it a little bit already in terms of the production of the song. This must have been quite cool for you because and quite a different experience, maybe a bit kind of like daunting in a way because like you've gone from doing your DJing work, obviously you're mixing, you're in the production space. You know what I mean? This isn't like, oh, this is the first time I've done this. But you're now adding your own vocals in there. Sort of what was it
Mm-hmm.
like sort of then having to do like vocal recording?
Terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. And like, bro, I won't lie to you, man. There's pitch correction on my vocals all over the place. Like, I'm not the best singer in the world. Like, it's something that I'm gonna have to like learn and work on. Like, the same thing when I first started going to the gym. It's like I wasn't the biggest guy in the gym, and I sure as hell wasn't doing everything correctly and wasn't lifting properly. And I've been doing some training. Like, I've been subscribed to Melissa Cross, who's the vocal coach for people like Noah from Bad Omen. She's done a bunch of stuff with like Ollie Sykes, Caleb from Beartooth, just to name a few. So yeah, I've been doing her seminars quite a bit, but daunting, man. Like real daunting going into a vocal booth and like having to perform. Especially like the guy that I'm working with, like Tom Anderson. He's the most talented guy that I've ever seen do it, man. Like I've seen a lot of musicians do it, obviously on a big stage and stuff. But like being in a studio with someone who's a genius like that, and you just watch him, and you'll be like, man. Like I'm in awe. Like I'm in such awe of music production now. Like as you said, obviously being on the other side of it as a DJ, like my foray beforehand was like making mashups. So I'd take songs that had already existed and I'd break them down and I'd rearrange them into something new. And that's kind of where I learned how to use a program like Ableton. So that's my DAW, my digital audio workspace. And from that, I was like, okay, cool. I can construct a song using other people's songs. Can I make it from scratch? So that was the first task. Going cool. Like, how do we cook one of these from scratch? And then like eventually it got to a point where I was like, I'm gonna have to start singing on this soon. Like, I invested in I think it's Antares, the auto tune software. There isn't that much auto tune on this one. It's more like pitch correction on this one. But there's a couple of songs because like There's some ideas that I've been cooking, and like there's yeah, auto tune is going to come out at some point in time because I look at auto tune like an instrument. I think auto tune can be a fantastic instrument. It's like you look at someone like T-Pain, who was almost a poster child for auto tune for years, and like he used it as an instrument. Like I know he's like not the most popular name from time to time, but Kanye uses auto tune as an instrument. Like you look at the tune Runaway, like he actually uses auto tune almost like a guitar, like to play like a melody on it. So there's always a stigma in the rock scene about people who use autotune, and like once you venture into dance music a little bit and you see like the byproducts of it, you're like, like it's an instrument, like it's a vocal effect, like it's something that you can use to create a sound that you're otherwise unable to create yourself. So yeah, to answer your question, singing for the first time was daunting, but I'd I'd kind of I'd kind of been practicing at DJ sets. So like, if some people have seen me DJ, I don't do it every set, but I do it occasionally. Where like if I'm feeling a vibe and the crowd is like singing and they're like a voluminous crowd, I'll do an a cappella rendition of "Living on a Prayer." So I'll literally just go, Tommy used to work on the docks, and just let everyone ride with it. And then I'll chime in for like bits and pieces here and there. So like I've kind of been like trying to get used to singing in front of a crowd because yeah, man, it's scary.
It's actually quite interesting you say about like you see autotune as like an instrument because people would see that as like a really big hot take, but you're saying yeah, like you see it as like an instrument, not something that maybe sort of affects how people view the song and stuff like that.
Oh, 100%. I'm going to try and find the song real quick right now. Right. You know the Bring Me the Horizon record that probably no one listened to. It's called Songs to, oh, sorry, no, Music to. And it's like music to listen to, music to dance to. And then it's like got all these like long things, right?
Hmm.
There's a song on there called Underground Big. It's 24 minutes long. And I'm guessing the vast majority of people saw that song was 24 minutes long and went, I'm not going to listen to that. But there's a lyric on that song. I don't want to misquote it. Um, because basically there's a point in the song where Ollie Sykes just talks underground big BNTH lyrics. There's like literally like three quarters of the song is Ollie just doing this speech, like uh, this huge crazy yeah right this huge crazy speech. And during this speech he goes, I mean, I know. He goes, and I don't have any musical skills. I can't sing. I mean, I can sing now, kind of, but we use auto tune, and I just beg and borrow and steal, and I rip people off. Like Nihilist Blues, that melody. Someone said, "Oh, that's like Evanescence," and I'm like, "Yeah, must have been subconsciously ripped off." And it's not like I'm not a genius or whatsoever. Just getting on and feeling stuff in a vibe, and it's like that is a nugget of information that is sat on a 24-minute long Bring Me the Horizon track that the
Hmm.
vast majority of people wouldn't have listened to. I would much rather go and watch a band where the lead singers or whoever's doing vocals are using auto tune and it's part of a sound or an image than someone trying to do something not necessarily out of their comfort zone, but something that is beyond where they're at that moment in time, for people to slander it and then for them to not have the confidence to do it again and move forward and go into a different direction. Because that for me is the heartbreaking thing about art and music, is the fact that everyone is going to criticize you. As soon as your head's above the precipice, you are open to fire. Like you're going to get criticized, you're going to get people on you, destroying everything that you've like dreamed of and worked on. And it's like, it's part of internet culture. It's part of reaction culture, and that those kinds of comments can make someone second guess or doubt themselves. Where it's like, if the stigma wasn't there about autotune, people would be far more inclined to work with it. And you'd be surprised, man. Tons of bands use it. Tons of bands, because like fundamentally, if you're trying to get a desired effect on a sound, like sometimes you just physically can't make that sound with your voice, so you're bringing an effect on it.
I know we're going to be wrapping things up here and stuff like that in a little bit and stuff. We've definitely got to get to the final sort of questions, stuff like that, that I always sort of love to ask. But before we get there, I'll kick myself if I don't ask about it. I've got to ask about your love of wrestling. I know you're a wrestling fan. I've got a CM Punk top on today.
Oh, I
Just
couldn't
going
see that
proper
behind the
retro.
microphone. I should have clocked that way earlier.
Brilliant. Oh, it's actually the
Let's
two arms
go.
one. Yeah.
Straight
That's
Edge
like
Society.
2008 Punk, I think that is. That's when he first
Yeah,
cashed in Money in the Bank, I think. So, yeah, tell us
yeah,
about your love of wrestling.
bro. So like most kids, it started in the Attitude Era. Like my earliest memories of pro wrestling would be like me and my little brother like wrestling like pillows, and like we used to have like, because obviously my dad's a rugby coach, like we'd have like rugby pads like just kicking around the house. And like, to anyone who used to wrestle pillows, right, the elite was like a rugby shield, like one of those pads they practice tackles on, because like the stuff me and my little brother could do, like we had like so many 5-star Meltzer bangers like, with those rugby pads that never got televised.
And you know as well, right? You know, one time you definitely set that up to look like a table or like a table spot.
Yeah,
You know you've done that.
100%, 100%, dude. Yeah, like we had some pretty big themed matches going on, like in our bedrooms back a day. But yeah, like that's where it started, man. And like I've been in and out of wrestling. Like much like everyone else, I had a period where I fell out of love with it. It was during the Cena wins LOL era where I was like, okay, like I'm good now. Like I can't enjoy this. And then what brought me back was a buddy of mine was working with WWE, and he was helping putting on the show, the NXT show at Wembley, where the main event was Joe Balor for the NXT title. And Balor came out with the demon gimmick. And I had no idea what NXT was. Like, that's how out of touch with wrestling I've been. And I went to that show and I fell back in love with it. I think like people like Shinsuke were on the card, and there's all these like indie wrestlers who'd come through the ranks into the NXT system. And I was like, damn, okay. And then what really brought me back was that was around about the time that Bray Wyatt and the Wyatt family were debuting on the main roster. And I was like, a character with a gimmick that I believe. Shut up and take my money. And yeah, ever since then, I've been almost the biggest pro wrestling fan I've ever been, and been fortunate enough to go to 3 Manias now. 3? Is it 3? No, 2. 2 Manias. 2 Manias and AEW's All In at Wembley Stadium.
I was going to say, just say you've gone to 3 and stuff. You can just, no one's going to prove it. So just say you've gone
Oh
to 3.
no, I can't claim to be at a Mania that I wasn't at. It would destroy me. Yeah, like I did 33 in Orlando when the Hardys returned, and then I was at 35 at MetLife Stadium when the main event was Rousey, Lynch, and Charlotte Flair.
Was 35 as long as it felt us at home watching it? Was it really that long when you were in the stadium?
See, for me, it wasn't, because it
Wow.
like the day was the trip for me, man. So like, I ended up doing interviews during that trip. So earlier on, they had like a press week, and there was like a bit of Hard Rock Cafe where I interviewed Matt Hardy, Bobby Lashley, and Leo Rush whilst they were doing that gimmick, Roddy Strong, Alexa Bliss, like great roster of interviews. And then I didn't know what kind of like tickets I had for Mania, like the actual day of Mania. So I get up there and they put us in the press box, and I'm walking around this press box, and like all the wrestlers who aren't wrestling on the card are also walking around this press box. So I'm like walking past like some of the legends, man, like Foley and Snooker and like all these like big names. I'm like, what is going on? And like, I turned to my contact and was like, hey, I don't have to watch the show from here, do I? Can I go into the stadium? And he was like, we don't have ticketed seats for you yet, but we're going to source them for you. But he's like, in the meantime, this pass means you can just walk around like, behind like the ringside area, like where the barricade is. So I was just walking around there, like where the commentator's table was. And then like the show started, and they gave us some tickets, man. And these tickets were insane. Like genuinely, I was in between the ramp and the ring, like close enough to see both of them, close enough to see the action in the ring. And like, I must have spent $100 on beer that day. Like, I was having the time of my life, man. The absolute time of my life.
So for you, you thought it was like, time was nothing there. You were like, oh, it's still an
I was
hour.
like, is it over already? Well, that went by so quick.
You was already at Monday Night Raw the next night.
Yeah, I was. Oh, bro, a heartbreaking story about that trip, actually, because it was in New York. I had a ticket for the Hall of Fame, and I went to everything whilst I was there, and I had a ticket for the Hall of Fame, and I was staying at an Airbnb, and the guy who ran the Airbnb was like, right, just so you know, however good the public transport is on the weekday, on the weekend it falls apart. So wherever you need to go, leave an hour early. And I forgot that on Hall of Fame day. And all I had to do was get from like this place called Sunnyside to Brooklyn, but I had to go and change like subways like 2 or 3 times. And I'd mistimed it. I was already running a little bit late, and then there was all these cancellations on the line, all of these delays, and I was like, no. I get onto this subway, man, and I get a text from my mate. He's like, are you at the Hall of Fame? Please tell me you are. And I was like, no, why? And they were like, someone just tackled Bret Hart in the ring.
Oh yeah, that
and
was
I
that
was
year,
like,
wasn't it?
No. So I should have been there, and I missed that because
Oh.
I'm awful at staying on time, as you've experienced today.
No, 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 this hasn't happened. We're 2 hours early. We're all good. It's been a fantastic time and stuff chatting with yourself. It's been absolutely fantastic. I'll jump straight into it with my final question I always ask with every episode of the show. If you was to give somebody an important piece of advice, like the most important piece of advice you could give someone, let's say it's me, like what would you give?
So I got asked something similar earlier on today in another interview, and this answer again, I referenced him earlier. Like one of my best friends, Ed, we lived together for a large period of time. The guy who I came up with the meaning of life with, and we had a phrase. I want to say it because we went to secondary school with each other. I want to say it started in secondary school, and like our whole friendship group adopted it, and like it almost like fueled like who we then became. And the phrase was, "Don't talk about it, just do it." And for a guy who talks on the radio for a living, it's kind of ironic, but like there's something within that of like saying you're going to do something, saying I'm going to do something, and then not actually going through and doing it. Like if you can just get up and just go and do it, you'd be amazed as to what happens. And like a lot, like I've held myself back on so much stuff by talking about it and not actually doing it. Going, yeah, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this, and then I've not actually done the thing. I've just spoken about doing it. So like my bit of advice would be just don't talk about it, just do it. And like also perfection isn't a thing. Perfect doesn't exist. So never strive to be perfect. Don't strive for perfection because it doesn't exist. All you can do is create something that at that moment in time, as long as you don't half-ass it, is the best representation of you in that moment. And people love watching people grow. And if that version of you is completely different to the version of you in 5 years or 10 years time, good. That means you've learned and that means you've gotten better. But you can't learn and get better unless you do it in the first place.
Yeah, that is some fantastic, fantastic advice and stuff. Definitely something that I'll take on board, and I know many other people out there definitely should take on board. And yeah, we've come to the end of another fantastic, fantastic interview. Before we go, I'm rolling out the red carpet for you. As I've said before, Hot One style. I'm gonna copy their phrase and stuff. Tell the people what you
This
got going
camera,
on.
this camera, this camera, this
Yeah,
camera. Just
yes,
the one
there we
camera,
go.
actually.
The floor's to you, man. Tell them what's going on.
Yeah, so you got this. Depending on when this interview comes out, because I think this interview's coming out after the song comes out. So I think you got this potentially. Is that right now? I hope so. I hope nothing's gone wrong. But me and technology fall out all the time. So maybe, maybe if the song's not out yet, I hope not. Touch wood. Yeah, go and stream. You got this. Please just get in touch with me and tell me what you feel. Like whether you love it or whether you hate it, I want to know how you feel about it. And like to anyone who spends the 3 minutes listening to the song, I appreciate you. And yeah, if you have a couple more minutes in your day to let me know your honest opinions of it, like I'd be more than grateful to hear them. Bowling for Soup tour starts on the 5th of February, which I'm so excited about, so grateful about as well. So grateful to Jarrett and the boys in that band for the opportunity. And then what else have I got? I've got a couple of DJ sets coming up. I'm doing 2 DJ sets on the Bowling for Soup tour that are like after parties, one in Brighton, one in Nottingham. I'll be DJing in Portsmouth in March. I'm going to be DJing in Lincoln in March as well, I want to say. And I think I've got a DJ set in Cambridge in April as well at the 6-6, which is a great venue. And the last thing that I want to say is support this podcast. Please like this podcast, share this podcast, subscribe to this podcast. Bailey is a fantastic interviewer. I'm gutted that I've had to cut this conversation short because in typical me fashion, I was like, yeah, I'll book a couple of interviews back to back. So Bailey, you have my word, brother. I want to come back on at some point in the future. And I want to do like a full hour with you, like me and you just shooting it for yeah, a good hour. And let's really get to know each other. But yeah, support Bailey and the Joining Us Today podcast because it's fantastic. I've had such a blast, bro. Your good questions, your interview is phenomenal.
John, I didn't pay you that much money to big me up. Damn. And you know, I was sitting on that joke for a little bit as well. I was at your place. I've got to come up with this joke. I've got it. It's too
I saw
good.
your face light up, man. There's very few opportunities as the interviewee that we get to drop that line. So yeah, like take it anytime you can.
100%, 100%. But anyway, this has been a fantastic episode of the show. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. See you guys next time. Peace out.